Hello everyone and welcome to the Ticker.com's news channel on YouTube. On this channel, we review stock markets and discuss financial news, market trends, and economic data from Wall Street to Global Street. So let us get started. Wall Street indices extended 2 months gain to new record highs, but markets in Europe and Asia struggled after a week of choppy trading. Optimism prevailed amid expectations that the stability will return to international trade and key U.S. trade partners will finalize agreements ending months of uncertainty and chaos unleashed by the Trump administration. Moreover, June's payroll expansion surpassed expectations, providing another upward jolt to the market. Investors feel confident that large retailers, manufacturing companies, tech giants, and military contractors will continue to deliver earnings despite tariff-linked uncertainties. Washington lawmakers succeeded in passing a budget bill that is estimated to add at least $3.6 trillion to federal debt over a decade. The trickle-up economics is expected to provide a large tax relief to wealthy, cut healthcare spending for the poor, and impose import tax on goods that will impact the most to those in the middle and the lower class. Let us review key economic updates of the week, and we begin with the U.S. The U.S. economy added jobs at a faster than expected pace in June despite the tariff uncertainties and geopolitical risks. Hourly wages rose at an annual pace of 3.7%, jobless rate held at 4.1%, and the number of unemployed stabilized around 7 million. The jobs report supported the market's enthusiasm that corporate results in the second quarter may not be stellar, but they are likely to meet or surpass expectations. The U.S. job openings increased for the third consecutive month and rose to 7.8 million, easing the worries that the corporations may stop looking for more staff in the months ahead. The overall trade deficit expanded in May after exports decreased at a faster pace than imports. The U.S. recorded largest trade deficit with the European Union, and deficit with Mexico and Vietnam increased largely because of a surge in indirect shipments from China. The direct trade deficit with China shrank as more shipments from Chinese companies arrived from different locations. The consumer price index in the Eurozone inched higher to 2%, supporting the case for a rate cut. Despite the easing of inflation over the last year, nominal prices are still rising from a higher base and negatively impacting consumer spending. In other economic news from around the world, China's private business activities were stable despite the business disruption caused by the erratic U.S. trade policy. The jobless rate in the Eurozone and Germany stayed elevated but stable, and Germany's new orders for manufactured goods rose despite trade uncertainties. Japan's real household spending increased at the fastest pace in 3 years, supporting the Bank of Japan's case to continue its rate hike campaign. Let us review key events in global bond, currency, and commodity markets last week. The yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury hovered near 4.35% after stronger than expected jobs report led investors to pair bets on imminent rate cut. Texas crude oil prices hovered near $66 a barrel amid expectations of a production cut announcement this week. Natural gas prices in Europe held at €33 per megawatt hour amid shifting weather pattern and early arrival of extreme heat in June. The euro edged higher to a new 2021 high at $1.18 amid general dollar weakness and renewed worries about the Federal Reserve's independence. The yen strengthened to 144 following stronger than expected economic data reinforced expectations of a more hawkish stance from the Bank of Japan. Let us shift our attention to major stock markets in the U.S., Europe, and Asia. The S&P 500 index and the Nasdaq Composite soared more than 1% and traded at new record highs as optimism about trade policy and stronger than expected payrolls data supported markets' upward bias. The European market erased previous week's gains and U.S. tariff jitters ahead of the looming deadline this week. The Nikkei 225 stock average dropped 2% and paired previous week's gains after the U.S.-Japan negotiations entered into uncharted territory ahead of the looming deadline on July 9th this week. Hong Kong and China indices fell amid worries that the U.S. tariffs are likely to stay as high as 40%. Indian market indices lack direction ahead of the details of a possible trade framework with the U.S. announcement as early as next week. Stock market indices in New York and Asia rebounded in June amid receding worries about the U.S. tariffs. Benchmark indices in New York jumped between 4 and 5%, and market indices in Asia jumped between 2 and 6%, amid optimism that the U.S. will drop its threat of aggressive tariffs. However, that remains to be seen. Investors may have to dial down expectations in the months ahead as Japan, Mexico, China, Canada resist additional import tax and retaliate with their own non-financial barriers. We now shift our attention to merger deals, market movers, and earnings updates from leading companies last week. AeroVironment said it plans to raise $750 million through the sale of common stocks and $600 million in convertible senior notes due in 2030. Tesla stock dropped after the U.S. president urged the Department of Government Efficiency to review government subsidies received by the electric vehicle maker. Progress Software reported strong second quarter results, but revenue fell short of expectations, and the software company revised higher its annual outlook. Constellation Brands reported weak quarterly results, and the alcohol beverage company guided full-year sales to be down 2% to up 1%. UniFirst Corporation reported strong results, and the provider of uniforms and protective clothing reiterated its annual outlook. TechTarget said net loss expanded in the first quarter, and the content and research publisher for technology buyers expects a mid-single-digit revenue decline over the first 6 months of the year. Centene Corporation revised lower its expected revenue, and the health insurance company estimated the annual revenue shortfall could reach as high as $1.8 billion. Datadog, the internet infrastructure management company, was selected to be included in the S&P 500 index before the start of trading on July 9th. Franklin Covey swung to a loss in the fiscal third quarter, and the coaching and consulting company reiterated its annual outlook. Bang & Olufsen reported weak full-year results, and the Danish consumer electronics company reiterated its outlook. Nordnet Bank, the online bank's new customers in June increased at an annual growth rate of nearly 14%. Stolt-Nielsen released weak quarterly results, and the Norway-based chemical tanker operator registered one-off gains due to step-up equity investments in shipping companies. J. Sainsbury reported higher same-store sales in the first quarter, partially impacted by increased fuel cost. Sodexo Group posted higher sales in the third quarter, and the French catering service provider to airlines reiterated its annual outlook. In the week ahead, investors in the U.S. are looking forward to the release of consumer inflation expectation surveys, monthly wholesale inventories, and weekly jobless claims data. The Fed's minutes and balance sheet announcements and the monthly budget statements are also on schedule. On the earnings front, market expects the results from Costco, Delta Airlines, Levi Strauss, PriceSmart, WD-40, First Bancshares, Conagra, and Progressive Corporation. In Europe, investors are looking ahead to the release of Germany's monthly industrial production and current account data and Eurozone retail sales reports. Germany and France are set to report on the international balance of trade, and the Bank of England is scheduled to release its financial stability report. On the earnings front, markets are anticipating results from Repsol, Ferrexpo, OMV, Porsche, Swatch, Brunello Cucinelli, Flughafen Zurich, Schaeffler, Fraport, Barry Callebaut, and Vistry Group. In Asia, investors are looking ahead to the release of Japan and China's foreign exchange reserves, Japan's current account surplus and bank lending, and China's inflation rate, and India's annual money supply data. In addition, Japan is set to release its producer price index. India is also expected to release its foreign exchange reserves data, and China is expected to announce its vehicle sales and balance of trade data as well. On the earnings front, markets are anticipating corporate results from TSMC, Tata Consultancy, Aeon Corporation, Fast Retailing, Global Unichip, Tosei Corp, Amiyaki Tay Corp, ABC Mart, and Johnson Electric Holdings. You can review daily U.S. and global financial market news, stock movers, earnings releases, SEC filings, and economic updates on ticker.com and 123jump.com. You can find the latest financial books on Redera.com, keep up with financial industry events on eventsinamerica.com, review ETF and mutual fund performance and in-depth profiles on tickerfunds.com, and review market updates and stock movers in India on niveshak.in. That is all for today, and we will see you next week.